This is the AI in Education podcast. How are you, Ray?
I'm great, Dan. Thank you very much. Thank you for asking.
Good. Have you been using AI this week?
Yeah, let me yes, Dan. Yes. I have been using AI.
Good.
I've been using some new and different things. So I've been building an app. So, I need to step back a little bit. So there is this issue for educators that there's not really easy ways to find out how AI is being used in the workplace. And the closer you get to the employment, the more you get concerned about that as a student. So think about students going to TAFE, community college, FE college, it would be in the UK, wouldn't it? Or a university. And how does a teacher find a good case study of what's happening in their particular field? And so I've been collecting links to all these different case studies. And I thought, do you know what it needs? It needs a little app where you can go, I'm teaching this, and it comes up with 3 or 4 case studies for you and allows you to pick one.
That's a good idea.
So I've been working on that problem end to end with AI. So the first thing is finding case studies. And so I've been using a bit of AI to help me with that. But then the next thing was I then got 2,000 case studies. And my goodness, the data is a bit messy, like links to case studies that don't exist anymore, or perhaps it's to a general press release where actually, if you're a teacher, you want to know what they're actually doing. And so cleaning up that data, I built a little program in Claude Coworker to help me fill out that data and clean it up a little bit. But then I realized I needed to actually clean it, look at some of these links and actually look at the web page. So I built another program in AI Studio where I could just go through each of them and it would open it in a window and I could look, and if it wasn't any good, click on a button for it to give me a Google search result. So it's kind of heading towards thinking about agentic AI, really.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of using some of the new cool stuff like Claude Coworker and some of the programmatic stuff, because, I can't build a program to save my life, but I'm able to give a set of instructions to an AI system to get it to build the program for me. And then I know enough to be able to test it and go, yeah, that's good, or that's bad, or it's not quite doing what I want. Gosh, that was a ramble, Dan.
It was. I'm thinking of it as you're going through there, because I just quickly grabbed my phone, because when you talk about co-work there, I've been trying to get my head around that as well. You've been doing that for quite some time. We use it in Claude, I know. And there was a question that was asked in a group that we both on in LinkedIn, where there was a couple of things that are happening where people are utilizing different models. So there's a thing in the Microsoft environment called Model Council at the minute, so this is where it starts to get quite interesting, doesn't it? Because it's where you can ask something about research or about a particular opinion, and then it can tell you what GPT whatever says, and it'll tell you what a Claude model says, or whatever that might be. And then it'll correlate the two together and say, well, this is what this says, this is what that says. And it's quite interesting, that Model Council, where you are asking things of different models and they're almost connecting together and analyzing things. That was interesting.
It's funny you say that, because on Windows 11, it might have been there on Windows 10, when you hover over the full screen button on one of the windows, you get a little set of things that allow you to do things like split the screen 50-50. And one of them is for Windows. And I realize I use that a lot because I have access to and pay for Copilot, ChatGPT Edu, Claude, and Gemini. And quite often, I will do that AI council thing because I've got a question or I want to do something. I'll put them all 4 up and I'll ask it the same question in order to understand which is strong at one. Claude is strong at coding. I've managed to get it to be pretty strong at writing. Copilot is strong because, of course, it has access to my SharePoint files, for example.
Yeah.
Gemini is strong because I find it kind of a bit more creative. It's also good for building programs in AI Studio. And then ChatGPT is strong because I've got a lot of custom GPTs that I jump in to do a job for me. Yeah. And so I know that I'll go to different ones for different things, but I think I'm a more advanced user because I've got all 4. Yeah. I think for other people, having that council idea in Copilot to say, okay, go do this work on 2 different AIs and then come back and allow me to compare the differences That's going to be really
Yeah,
interesting.
it is interesting because I've been putting some research stuff in there and say, what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? And I shared some screenshots in the in chats that we were in. I always think about these tools in terms of where teachers or educators might use these things as well. So I've been using Copilot Co-work a bit as well, which is, like the Claude Co-work tool where you can set it off to do something. But then when you're looking at that, I often think, well, sometimes my issue for that was because you can schedule prompts in Copilot as well. So, and lots of AIs, you can say, I've got one that runs every Sunday to say, scour my calendar for the week ahead. What are my priority meetings, and plan those meetings for me. And that just runs every Sunday. So I get an email on a Monday morning summarizing my week ahead kind of thing and what I need to be doing. So it's thinking about the actual workflow for that. So what I set that co-work up to do, because obviously that I'm looking for use cases for it because I want to learn as part of the podcast and as part of my job. And one of the things I set it up to do was I had a meeting coming up later in the week. Which one was now? It was, what day are we? I don't know what day. This is last week. It was towards the end of last week. And I got it to set up a look through some of the dynamic stuff that we've got, look through some of my internal communications, look through particular things I've got inside Copilot anyway. And then it went off and created a presentation for me, for my customer, on 3 horizons and strategies and things like that, which is good because I just set it off to do it. And I was just interested to see what it was going to come back with. And that would have taken me some time, but I just set it off. And then, I came back later on and it's pretty good.
So interesting, because I've got the consumer version of Coworker, and that runs on your machine. So I have a separate laptop that's kind of semi-air gapped because I don't want to run it on my main laptop because it could go everywhere. But you've got the Copilot Coworker, which is, I would have called it the secret squirrel, but I know it's available,
on
the Frontier program, but that's running it in the cloud. Effectively, you've got another laptop, let's call it, sitting in the cloud that it's running on that's there 24/7. So that's getting an interesting approach. But the thing I really appreciate of what you've just talked about and what I talked about earlier is there's a new piece of technology and we've got to get our heads around it. But the way we're doing that is, what problems have I got that it's going to able to help me with? Because all too often, when I see launches of new AI things, I see a demo of meeting minutes, scan my inbox, or travel. I want to create me a travel plan. Well, we only ever do that once a year. I like the idea of applying it to a actual problem in the real world that you've got or I've got is much better than a theoretical problem or a demo.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's when it's when you light bulbs hits, isn't it? Because some things, like say in Microsoft, we've got a thing at the minute where it's pipeline hygiene. So check in that you've got conversations or whatever, opportunities that or projects that you're working on with customers that have got deadlines coming up and things like that. And it's hard to track, especially my role. I've got every independent school, every Catholic school in Australia. So there's thousands of them. And I can't do that manually. I can, but it takes a long time and it makes you sad. So having something else just go off and do that and say, what's coming up? Help me out. And you're right, it's playing with it, experimenting. The other one I've been kind of playing with as well is the direct editing inside Word recently. It's been there for a while, obviously, but actually there's the capability now when you've got a side pane in Word, for example, that then it can directly edit, not just conversations with it, but I'd be writing something, I'll say, can you reduce the word count on this for me or summarize this? And it does it in front of you and says, you want this or not, and nothing new, but it just helps my workflow out. And just the more you play with these things, the better.
And I think, again, that's interesting because I've not used the editing directly in Word because a few months ago, I didn't have the full Copilot license. And every time I tried to do something, it's almost as though it didn't know what was on my screen.
Yeah.
And so I haven't gone back to experience it differently. It's really interesting. It's a bit like when somebody launches a new website. If it's a bit rubbish, you kind of cross it off your list and don't go back to it. And I kind of feel like that. I've had a few experiences of that in different AI systems where it's like, okay, it's no good at that. I'll go on and try a different one. And I don't go back.
And that's what I was feeling because not being so Microsoft stuff, but you can switch your accounts. So when I'm working on university stuff with University of Adelaide, that particular license only gives me access to Copilot Chat,
Yes.
which doesn't interact with the Microsoft Graph. So it's interesting, but if you're just using that, you might switch off. But then if I flick it across to my Microsoft account and then I can utilize the editing directly in Word element, then it's absolutely amazing. It saves me heaps of time.
Okay, so here's something that I've been thinking and talking with people about over the last few months, and we've not talked about it on the podcast. So let's talk
Right.
about it now. I find it fascinating where people say, oh, I tried it and the writing was rubbish, or it didn't know the answer, or it couldn't do this thing, or whatever. I'm not sure if everybody realizes that AI in this context is a bit like people. You can have somebody who's not experienced. Let's say you're going to hire an accountant today, Dan. You can hire an accountant for 20,000, 50,000, or 100,000, and you're going to get different levels of accountancy skills from those three individuals. And
Yes.
AI is like that. If you use the free one, you've maybe using an AI that is not able to think very deeply and has maybe got an IQ of 80. If you use the paid one, you maybe have got an AI that's 120 IQ and is able to do 25 minutes of work without coming back and asking questions.
Yeah.
If you're using the $200 version of AI, you've probably got a system that's maybe 140 IQ and can work for 3 hours independently before it comes back and asks questions.
Mm.
And we understand that in human concepts. Like, we know the difference between a junior and a senior person, but I'm not sure if everybody realizes that is exactly the way that AI works. Is, at different levels, you're getting different models with different levels of intelligence and different capabilities in being able to do work.
Yeah, and that's the risk to education, or kind of sitting down and kind of sitting on their hands and waiting for things, because teachers are gonna just go, well, I'm using Claude Cowork to do this or whatever, and I'm using whatever tool, and then IT, for whatever reason, whether it's good or bad, then start to lose control of some of the governance of the AI because people are using whatever tools that they gravitating towards because of the capability, right?
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. There's masses and masses of evidence that no matter what you do as an organization, if you're not giving people capable tools, they will go and use their own. And it might be on their phone, it might be on your laptop, it might be on their own laptop, but that is what is happening. And there's heaps of evidence around there about that. So I think when you're thinking about AI governance, you can't just say, well, the answer is everyone is using, let's pick Copilot, because a lot of people have said, oh, we'll just standardize on that, and believe that that is what's actually happening in the organization.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And so you've got to think about governance at the wider sense, not just at the, well, we've given them this tool and we expect everyone to use it and nobody else is using anything else.
Yeah, it's like parenting, isn't it? Exactly. So coming on to some of the news then, one of the things that I picked up, hopefully you've had a quick scan of this as well, I thought it was quite interesting. This was the use of AI by students. It was like a report by NESA, which is part of the New South Wales government and education team there. And they've got new rules, basically. It's under the rules and procedures section for use of AI by students. So they're too long, do not read for this. It's worth having a look at. And obviously all teachers will probably be looking at this in New South Wales. But there's interesting things that came out of it. It says students cannot submit AI generated work as their own. They cannot use AI in assessments where it's not explicitly allowed. They cannot use AI in HSC exams unless NESA approves that in the future, and failure to disclose AI when disclosure is required, they can't do that either. So they've got to disclose it. There's advice in there for students and teachers. And it also notes in there, this is an interesting one. Schools are responsible for providing specific advice to students about the use of AI in school-based assessment. Students should be aware of and comply with a school's policy for AI. So it's an interesting one. Sounds quite generic, what I've just read out there. But did you have a quick look at that?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because each organization is able to say, well, these are the rules for our organization. So in NESA's case, this is for the HSC. The HSC exams is like year 12 graduation exams, happens to be for a state in Australia. It's the equivalent of, I guess, the GCSE?
AS A-levels in the UK, yeah.
And so that's an examining body saying these are the rules when you are taking our exams. But then if you're not taking our exams at that moment, then go to your own school for rules. Well, shouldn't there be one set of rules? Like the social media ban in Australia has got a rule, which is you're not allowed on social media if you're under the age of 16. Not if you're in this kind of family, you're not allowed. And if you're in this kind of family, you are. It's like one set of rules for everybody. And I think we have to get towards that because, again, there is lots of research that is telling us that students are confused because they get multiple sets of rules and they don't know which ones they should be following.
Yeah. And this was very generic as well.
Yeah.
It's kind of obvious. I feel when I look at these things, I think, well, that's kind of obvious. So I think they've obviously put this in so there is guidance in there somewhere. And I suppose when you put a policy in, there's some rules and regulations you can always refer back to. But
so I think it's great. I think we need more harmony. We also need more of the why. Why do we say that students shouldn't be using AI in their learning journey? Well, it's so that you learn things and don't have the cognitive offloading. All of this stuff is good, but it's leading us towards having an harmonized view that students can understand where they should be using AI to help them learn and when they should not, because it will harm their learning.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the next bit of news that I saw here, we haven't heard from Adobe in a while, which is good because Adobe have done it. They've did a heap when AI first came out, especially around image generation through Firefly and things like that. And they've just released a new thing called Student Spaces. It's a bit like study and learn if you're in the Microsoft kind of world, or like Google LM a little bit as well. It's called Adobe Student Spaces. It lets you do things like generate flashcards, create quizzes, create study guides, mind maps, video summaries, podcasts, things like that. So that's an interesting one because lots of people in school have got access to the Adobe licensing. So it'd be nice to see if people can start to use this.
Yeah, I thought it was funny because when I saw that list from you of the different things it can do, I thought that sounds awfully familiar. So I popped into Notebook LM and it's almost exactly the same thing. I was kind of looking into it going, okay, well, what's the difference? And I think the big difference is Notebook LM is a grown-up interface. Study Spaces looks much more kind of middle, junior, high school level. But the functionality is pretty similar between the two. But the Adobe stuff has been specifically prepared for students. Not Notebook LM is something you and I use it for research activities. So that's maybe the difference between the two is about the interface and the way that it might talk to you.
Yeah, but it's good that Adobe are back in that game. It's not saying they've ever been out of that game, but you don't hear a lot of people talking about the Adobe suite. I suppose it would be dangerous originally when they saw all of these things coming out like Suno and not Suno, but the video editing stuff like Sora and things. But they did do a lot of integrations.
But it's great, isn't it, that Adobe have got a product specifically for students? Because often in the past, what they've done is had versions of their normal software at a student price. But now actually building tools for students, a bit like Microsoft has done, where OneNote was built for everybody, but then Mike Tolson did so much work to add all of the customizations to make it just right for students.
Yeah, I mean, maybe this is the pattern we're going to see with some of the vendors up there, because obviously Microsoft's got Study and Learn now, which is for students. There's a Teach one for teachers. So people are starting to add these things. Obviously, Google Gemini have got their things in there as well, and the Google LM stuff. So it's interesting. Good for education.
Okay, Dan, this week, the 2026 AI Index Report came out. That was from Stanford University's Human-Centered Artificial Intelligence Center, the HAI Center. It's a 54-page document. Don't expect you to have read it all, Dan. I did go through and have a look, and I was looking for two things. I was looking for what it was saying about education, and I was looking for what it said about Australia, because there's country tables in there, so you can compare US, UK, Australia, etc.
I love graphs.
Okay, so first of all, about the educational use of AI. So it kind of conclusion was the use of AI in education is moving faster than the institutions. The institutions are having to respond by playing catch up. And that it's pretty much at all levels of education. And the kind of general reflection was people are just using general AI. So there are AI specific tools to generate coursework or for training or whatever. That kind of isn't catching up because people are just using general tools. The other thing they found was, because this report comes from them reading a lot of global reports, the information on education is still pretty patchy. Like at the moment, I'm not aware of a good data source that tells us what proportion of Australian students are using AI. I know of one from 18 months ago, but I don't know of one now, and I'm not aware of one for schools. So we've got to catch up to that AI.
Yeah.
They had a section about AI skills, and they basically said, look, formal education is lagging behind because people are learning AI their own way. So they said over 80% of US high school and college students are using AI for education, but only half of middle and high schools have actually got AI policy in place. And less than 1 in 10 teachers say that those policies are clear. So you've got to have the policy environment, you've got to have the responsible AI environment, but you've also got to have the moving forward. And if students are using it, then how do you educate students? So what they found was some countries are moving fast. We've talked about this before. UAE have got it in their curriculum. Chile have got it in their curriculum. South Africa have got it in their curriculum. Some countries are moving forward, whereas other countries are kind of going, well, we don't know what the answer is yet. Well, yes, but if we wait for the answer, it could be too late.
That's really interesting.
There was a really interesting point they made about it. They said that the public discussion about AI mixes up 3 different things. So, Dan, the 3 things are AI in education. The second thing is AI literacy. And the third thing is AI education. Okay, so AI in education is about using AI tools to improve the process of education. Whereas AI education is learning about AI.
Yeah.
But then AI literacy is about the application of it. Like I often see that being referred to in business now as AI fluency. You know, the knowing when and when not to. Not technically what it is, but knowing when it's a bad time to use it and a good time and how to use it.
Yeah.
And so they said, from an organizational point of view, you've got to think about those 3 uses, because it could lead you down to, oh, well, we've given people tools, but we haven't got any change going on because we're not building capability.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was, yes, most countries have got a computer science curriculum, but very few countries have got an AI curriculum. But we've now got China mandating it from 2025.
Yeah. Is there anything interesting about Australia?
There is a table in there about the proportion of university students who've used Gen AI to support their university studies. What is interesting is Australia, the US, and the UK are down towards the bottom of the table. Like the bottom 4 countries are the UK, the US, Turkey, and Australia. The top 4, Indonesia, Malaysia, Saudi Arabia, and Spain. That's nice, isn't
it? When you just mentioned the bottom 4 there, Australia were in last. It was like Australia 4th from bottom on this. Australia.
Yeah, sorry. I went from the
US,
bottom up.
UK.
Yeah. But the interesting thing I thought in there is that they compared it to the 2023 survey and a huge jump. Like it was 20s and 30%, whereas now it's 70s and 80% of students using it.
And there was something about women in here as well, wasn't there?
Yeah, they looked at the proportion of women active in the AI community. Now, active, they were looking at authors, so research papers around AI, authored by women, and inventors, so patents, for example, owned by women in AI. And what they found is Australia, about a third of AI talent, as they called it, were women. It's still a way to go to get to 50-50, but Australia is doing better than many countries.
Okay.
And I think, I mean, we've said this a few times, and look, Dan, we have to excuse ourselves because we're 2 blokes talking about AI every week, but there is a much more active, much more balanced community talking about AI. It isn't a male-dominated field anymore.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. We have got a couple of guests on the show lined up in May to talk about some of the things in Australia around female entrepreneurship around AI and women in AI. So that'll be quite interesting as well. So quick bit of note about Anthropic. They came down under recently. G'day, Australia. We're Anthropic.
Yeah, so they came down, had a meeting with government. They launched an MOU around the National AI Plan and what they were going to do in medical research, especially. Nothing in education, unfortunately, except with universities that were doing medical research. I think the thing that was interesting is that they released some figures about Australians' use of Claude compared to other countries. And basically, Australia uses Claude per head 4 times more than other countries in more diverse ways with more advanced skills. I'll give you an example of more advanced skills. Do you go into your favorite AI, ask it a question, and then close the window and move on? Or do you get involved in a longer conversation with it, like you would with a colleague helping you to do a task?
Yeah.
That's a more advanced use. And Australians are better at sustaining that conversation and tweaking to get the results rather than just taking the first answer, copying and paste it into an email.
I think Anthropic generally came up with really good research papers and information about the usage of the tools. Obviously it's a little bit biased, but yeah, I think when you scratch the surface of this, it was great to see this, but I didn't see a lot of substance underneath it when I started to look at it in major detail. But, everybody's doing lots of these MOUs now, so it's great.
Yeah, it's a statement of intent that countries are interested in thinking about, let's call it sovereign AI, but AI under the control and based within countries. So London, for example, in the UK, there is a really strong base of AI companies. In fact, DeepMind, I think, are now centered out of the UK rather than San Francisco. And in Australia, there's that same relationship growing between the AI industry and governments, not just national government, but state governments as well. And so I think that's a reflection of a number of things. It's a reflection of countries' beliefs. In certain countries, Australia is probably one of them, where there is a kind of hankering after a little bit of sovereign AI, ours rather than everyone else's. But I think it's also part of that realizing that you've got to get out of the San Francisco or the US bubble in order to kind of interface with the real world. So a lot of AI research originally was done out of the UK and UK universities. So maybe that's just a resurgence of that happening.
Yeah, absolutely. So one last thing, which would be fun, proper AI, as I like to call it. Do you remember, Ray, when AI was real and not generative, and we did cool things like identify fish in Darwin Harbour and protect turtle eggs in Cape York, and even use drones to pick up quokka poop in Rottnest Island?
I remember we did a story on the quokka scat thing on the podcast. And I do also remember doing a story on the Darwin Harbour fish, because, Dan, it was my worst joke of the podcast, which was, that needs its facial recognition. I know that you think that's your joke now because you've used it, but if we go back to the old recordings, I was the one that made that joke.
Well, make me a crocodile sandwich and make it snappy, right? This
Go on then, Dan, tell me.
So they're using AI to detect crocodiles in Queensland waterways. Obviously, there's been, for people who know Australia, through global warming, the water's getting warmer and warmer and warmer. Crocodiles like it in the sea, and they're quite prevalent in Queensland and Northern Territory, but they're starting to come down further than Rockhampton now. It used to be like Rockhampton was your kind of line, but they're using these. Obviously, the Olympics is coming up in Brisbane and places soon, and they've got lots of kind of rowing events in some of these things. So I don't know whether that's spurring this along, but it's an interesting one because it's using AI to identify crocodiles in waterways, things that you can then put on boat ramps and stuff, because lots of dogs and things get taken by crocodiles on edges of waterways and things in Australia. So interesting use of like traditional AI, facial video recognition. So
okay, so I've got 2 thoughts. One is I've got to go and add that into my case studies database. But the second thing, Dan, is as an ex-teacher, how feasible would it be to run a project with a group of, 14-year-olds to build a crocodile detector?
Yeah.
So, I mean, seriously, what would you need to be able to do that?
When you look at the actual article here, it talks about the way they thought. There's quite detailed discussion in there about the way they were to use training data, because one of the guys did who was working in Darwin Harbour, he said, well, I'm not involved in this project, but one of the things you've got to do is do a lot of training data, because you've got to distinguish between logs and other things that float in rivers compared to crocodiles and things like that. So, it's a good conversation as well about training data, about bias, and all that kind of stuff. So, absolutely, you could. And the technology's there, isn't it?
You're making me smile because we did a tour 20 years ago in northern Queensland, where we went along a river with the crocodile people to spot crocodiles. And I spotted 3, or at least I thought so, and every single one was a logodile. It's just like a piece of driftwood.
And with the crocodile people. Okay, we better move on to some research now before we go mad. So the first piece of research you found today was called Strengthen Your Research Workflow with Generative AI. Now, I think I picked that up, hadn't I, as well?
Yeah, this is the last one we'll do, Dan. We'll save the real research papers for a couple of weeks' time, but this was one you found I thought was really fascinating. Tell me what you found.
Well, it was something on the Microsoft Tech community, and it was about strengthening your workflow through generative AI. So it's geared towards people doing research.
Mhm.
And it was really interesting because it actually focused on things that were practical for me. When I was looking at it, I was like, okay, this is really interesting. It's using the Copilot chat tool. You could insert any other tool into it, but it was talking about the way you can synthesize research, whether you can get writing support, whether you can analyze data. So it's like really tangible things that researchers are using. And just doing courses myself in Adelaide Uni, there's not a lot of support there for you. You kind of left to it on your own when you're doing research degrees because you sort of, I suppose, old enough and stupid enough to be able to go off and do your own thing. Whereas if you're doing undergrad stuff, you might have to go through courses around AI and AI integrity and things. But I thought this was really good because it was really practical if you're a researcher or doing some further study. But what did you think?
Yeah, I loved it. And just to echo your point, I didn't think that much of anything was specific to Copilot Chat. So yes, I can use it with any AI system because it's teaching me about how to use AI for research. And then the second thing was, yeah, I'm sure in the context of traditional researchers, it's useful, but I actually think it's useful for anybody. Now, it's a 54-page document, so you need to wade through quite a lot of information. But here's what I liked. So it didn't treat AI as a place to go to get answers. AI is an interface that produces plausible text, not truth. And I think that's a really useful framing for the kind of way that we think about AI can help with research. It's not, it goes and finds the answers for you, but it does some work alongside you and gives you drafts that you then start working with, not that you regard as the finished product. The second thing is it talked about appropriate reliance. So I thought this was really interesting. It said the real risk here is not just that you overuse AI or over rely on it, but that it's miscalibrated, that you accept something that looks smart and looks like the finished product, and you therefore over rely on the AI's results and don't put your own self into it.
Yeah.
Because at the moment, I think there's AI is rubbish or AI is brilliant, but actually it's got a role to play.
Yeah. So it was really good. I thought it was quite easy to digest as well. It wasn't that complicated, and it just landed really nicely for me anyway. I thought it was, very, very useful. And it's actually good. It's for a change, is like a good, positive kind of document that says, hey, you're not sure how to use it in this particular role. This is an example of how you can do it. I think we need more of this for educators and all kinds of industries.
Okay, so the other thing that I pulled out of this, and I would love every researcher to think about this, and I think it's useful for teachers as well, is it talked about prompt robustness. Like, is your prompt working well if one word changes? Like, if you forget to say please on the end of the question, does your prompt
Yeah.
give you different results? It's actually an important question because you might say to somebody, oh, I'll put this in. And if they put please on the end, they might get a completely different result, or some other question, reorder the sentence, for example. So it then said, when are you going to publish this stuff? Just like you would with a research project in a chemical lab, document what you're doing. Which prompts did you use? Is the prompt available for other people to look at to replicate your research? What model did you use? What date did you do it on? What custom instructions is that model working with? You would do that if you're doing an experiment in a Petri dish.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so you do have to record that when you're doing experiments with AI and research with AI so that other people can come along and look at it. And two things. One is they can understand how to repeat it, but the second is that they can look at how to improve it as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. My supervisors the other day just said to me, you just run through your AI tool just to look for gaps. If you document didn't address in the gaps, or if there's anything missing, it's a proactive way to use AI, which is great. I love it.
Yeah. It also has a section around cognitive debt. We've talked about that a few times this year already. This issue of if you over rely on it, then are you switching your own brain off? And turns out that's a problem for adults just as much as it is for students.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
Okay.
it's been great.
Yeah, it's a great paper. It's a long read. Stick it in your pile of things to read, or give it to your AI and ask it a question a day for 2 weeks to give you something that you can do some work with.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll pick up the research in the next episode.
Yeah, let's do that, Dan. But next week, we've got another interview. I think we're doing our bit for the gender balance. The last 3-4 interviews have been with women in the AI space. The next 2 or 3 interviews, we're going to have almost 3 months of understanding the role that we're seeing, the changing role of women in AI.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Ray.
Cheers, Dan.